a bedroom so cold. You turned away on your side. It's my timing.
Hi, I just wanted to make a quick observation and make this video a little bit after the March 5th Jehovah Witness protest against Watchtower, or their policies actually. But there's one, as I was watching all the videos and all the brave people out there in Warwick to finally give a voice to their concerns and representation of all the members out there that have been wronged with their policy, of the JW policies. To me personally, I've always thought that this was a civil rights issue with the policies concerning the Watchtower organization, how they masked their oppressive, high control rules and regulations against their flock. But that's just a mask to really a deprivation of civil rights. That's how I see it from its nuts and bolts, purest sort of basic element of it all. And while I was watching the video from that was taken at Warwick with the protest on that day, historic day for the JWs, there's one thing that really stands out to me, and that really sort of put everything together for me. I've known that it was like this in the past too, but it was the visual representation. And what I'm talking about is the sprinklers being directed out towards the protesters, and that imagery triggered another imagery in recent American history. What the Watchtower doesn't have is public relation awareness, where everything that they do may seem perfectly normal to their small community within the organization and people within it, but outside of the organization it is pretty horrific or very non-civil rights minded. And make no mistake, they are discriminatory. Even myself, being around the JWs for since being married and stuff, still am, I do sense a little attitude of discrimination just because I don't believe what they believe. Like I said, I'm alone in my thoughts within my family here, because most of my wife's family is here and I'm surrounded by JWs, so I see the full brunt of it all. They are nice, but not so nice, if that makes sense, which in the JW community, it doesn't really make sense. You can't but stop and look at these images here and not think of the African American civil rights movement from back in the 50s and 60s. And I would say it's almost a parallel universe between the two. Back then, the Southern Jim Crow institutionalized racism and the restrictions that they posed upon, the African American community down there, and how it took, in that day, semi-social media being television and radio, to expose the injustices that was taking place in the South, where the rest of the United States, and for the world in that matter, to show the injustices being perpetrated against the African American people. And they just wanted to drink out of the same fountain as everybody else, go to the same restaurants as everyone else, and have the same opportunities for their children to grow up and have the opportunities available to them as everyone else. This is, to me, the same issues as what the JW sort of phenomenon today is taking place, but instead of having radio and television where it's controlled by a select few, and those are the stories that are being told out in the world to sort of publicly shame the entity that's causing these injustices. In our time, what I see with the images of the water sprinklers being pointed towards the protesters, and back in the 50s or 60s, where the water cannons and the water hose being pointed towards the African Americans, is today we have the internet, where that is where the court of public opinion is being formulated, either for or against these injustices that the Jehovah Witness organization has taken place against their personnel that they kicked out because of a difference of opinion, or many other issues. I mean, it's just not that. I mean, you could get kicked out for almost anything, and they will hold your family hostage against you for you to fold and to go back into the fold of the Jehovah Witness organization. It is almost a carbon copy repetition of history that is taking place now, in parallel with the American Afro-American people have done back in the 50s and 60s. It's almost exactly the same, except that we're not seeing lynchings or public beatings or anything like that, but the abuses and the mental anguish or abuse that's being taken place is almost parallel, as far as taking hostage of your families and your whole social network being yanked out from under you. It's basically hand in hand, and these images that I'm putting up on the screen there is very powerful. And JW Crisis, I think his channel is, that should be an iconic t-shirt, sort of, imagery or whatever you want to call it, that represents what's going on today with the apostates and JW community. I hate using the word apostates these days now, because it's really doesn't reflect what the true issues are. Freedom fighters, if you will, or social justice fighters, or just people that want a fair share in life and to live life the way they want with their families. This rabbit hole could get deeper and deeper, but I just wanted to point out and focus on the imagery that you see in the screens here of what the organization represents in my eyes, and that is a denial of civil rights, even though historically they have fought for First Amendment rights, but for personal gains, so they could distribute their literature back in 80s and 90s and stuff like that. But today they use that First Amendment right to against their own parishioners, which is, I think, a crime. So I'll leave it at that. These are just some thoughts in lieu of the March 5th J.W. Warwick protest that I want to get out there, since it's fresh in everybody's mind, and it's nice to keep this going and have this as a memorable historic event that it has shaken the JW community, or the Watchtower to its boots, because not soon after they responded for the first time. They responded to the apostates or actions directly. I mean, other times it was indirectly. They would, post something on their website or whatever, but this time is a direct response to the protests of the Warwick compound there. And it truly is a compound from what it seems like. Again, isolating themselves from the rest of the world, where they are, the JW organization is pretty much out of touch with reality, I think. And each day that goes by, they get more out of touch and sort of lose their footing in public opinion, because they don't know how to manipulate public opinion to their benefit. I think that's going to be their downfall. But then again, when it comes to justice, justice always prevails. So they are in a losing battle here. They will not win this particular argument, because justice is not on their side in every level. And I think they know it. I think the people out there that are waking up know it as well, and it's just a matter of time. Just like discrimination down in the deep south with legislation, those days were numbered as well. Not too much soon after, it was exposed to the world during with television and radio, and here the internet, which all the apostates pretty much control public opinion towards the Jehovah Witness organization, which is great because now they do have a place to congregate and speak, in one voice for all of them for a common goal. Yeah, just take a look at these images. They are very similar to what's is taking place now, or what it took place 40 odd years ago in the United States and India before that with Gandhi's period, and I'm sure other civil rights issues around the world. And don't forget Susan B. Anthony with her women's rights during the 20s. That's another history lesson there that is similar to what's going on today. All right.